Holmes here for Red Tractor Nation. I'm here today in southern Jasper County in West Liberty. I'm here today with our friend Dennis Wilson. He's the president of the Jasper County Antique Tractor and Machinery Club. And he's going to tell us all about some of the things he has done to some beautiful Farmall tractors and some of the projects that he's got in the works right now. First of all, Dennis, have you always lived here in Jasper County?
Yeah, we were gone after I got out of college. I taught school a couple of years, and we moved back here in '78 and farmed with my brother for 40 years. And we have since sold our machinery out, and we just kind of doing what we want to do. But it's worked out well.
And one of those things that you wanted to do was work on tractors and machinery and do a lot of customization.
Well, yeah, that was just kind of something that came along. I thought, yeah, I can do that. You know, why do you climb a mountain? Because it's there.
Because it's there. So,
but, a lot of people, I don't soup them up for like more power like the tractor puller guys do. Never did get into that. But I like to kind of rearrange things and use parts, different things, and so it works out well.
Great. Well, tell us about this bee that we're sitting in front of.
Well, this I bought this tractor out of Noblesville, Indiana, and I bought it with the idea of lowering it.
Okay.
And so it wasn't a perfect restoration, but it was just a shiny old tractor, and you know, it's cute. And so I brought it home, and it really didn't. I've never had to do anything.
Have you lowered a tractor before?
I did one other one.
Okay.
And this one I lowered 16 inches.
Okay.
And I'll show you how to do that here after a bit. If anybody wants to build one, I would be eager to show them some of the problems that I encountered and some of the things I learned while we were doing it. So, because anytime you build a prototype, it takes a while.
Right.
And so anyway, we had a lot of fun building it, but it's a cute little tractor. We run it in parades, and I can take it on tractor drives and stuff.
Excellent. So if someone wants to build a lowrider tractor, we should get in touch with you,
sure, so
we can make the process go a little easier for ourselves, right?
I'll save them a lot of time.
So what are the main things that you have to do in order to drop a tractor 16 inches, as in this B?
Well, it's relatively easy if the tractor has a final drives.
Okay.
If the rear axle has final drives, then if you turn those upside down, then it lowers the tractor.
Okay.
And but like if you take a bigger tractor like an M or an H or whatever, don't do that.
Don't do that. It's much easier if they got final drives.
Right.
That you can rotate.
Yes.
So you rotate them, and you'll get the drop that you usually have. Now, is this the way that the IH created their Cub Lowboy?
You know, I don't know. I think it is.
I think
possibly.
I think they rotated them and they dropped the tractor like 6 to 8 inches, something like that.
I think they didn't go clear around.
Okay.
They just did it. And the mules, the shop mules, were made the same way. I think
they rotated the final drives.
Yeah, they made them to where they're short and they'll turn.
They got a great turning radius so that they can get around the shop. So what about the steering? Did you have to change the steering?
Now that was a whole different story.
What did the tractor come with, a single or wide front?
No, there was no wide front on a B.
Right.
It was just a tricycle front end. But they have a plate in the front that the front pedestal where the tricycle front end is on a pivot point. Well, I had to extend that plate out to made the wide front.
Okay.
And the wide front is the front axle out of Alice Chalmers B. They had a real high arching.
I was going to ask you, those things like go up in the air.
Yeah, right. Well, I flipped it upside down.
Turn it upside down.
Okay.
So a lot of lowering a tractor involves turning stuff upside down
Exactly.
and repurposing it.
Exactly.
So you got the Alice Chalmers B front end flipped upside down.
Right. And then, of course, your geometry is all wrong. because it's upside down. So
Yeah, okay.
the camber's all wrong. The wheels tip in like yay.
Okay.
And
So they're all cacked in like this instead of straight.
all goofy. And so I had to cut the axle about 7/8 of the way through, to where I had just a little bit hole in it. Then I could heat it and get it back to where,
bend it right so that
Right.
the camber
because
on the
the
wheel
axle's
is right.
like that big, so you can't really bend something that big.
So you cut it almost all the way through.
Almost, yeah.
Okay.
And so that was just one of the challenges. But, so essentially I didn't have very many sophisticated tools to do that. So with a carpenter square and a tape measure, why, I set it away and it works so good. It drives good, so it's okay.
You didn't need any lasers.
And I wish I'd had that. Yeah, that would have been cool. A front end machine.
That would have been great.
Absolutely.
Drive it down to the dealership, say, hey, front end alignment, please.
Yeah, on a Farmall B.
So what else did you add to the tractor to make it a little bit more custom?
One of the lessons I learned was that when you build a wide front end for a tractor, then you have to worry about the pivot points. So you have to have a wishbone that comes back, and the pivot point that you have in the front has to be at the same level as the pivot point in the back, where the wishbone comes back.
Ah, so it's got to be a perfect triangle.
Right. And
basically an isosceles triangle.
Well, I reckon. But the main thing.
If I'm wrong, somebody correct me.
The main thing is the pivot point in the front has to be on the same plane as the pivot point in the back.
Okay.
I didn't do that with the first one, and it drove real squirrely.
Okay. Define this technical term, squirrely. So what exactly did it do when you turned?
If you went over a bump, it would pull.
Okay.
It would like dart the steering one way or the other. Now, I didn't have that problem with the little B because I'd already learned my lesson on the first one that I built.
Okay.
And because I had a really cool radius rods that came out and hooked to the side of the frame, I thought, it looked great. Didn't drive worth a darn. So I had to change it, and I had to make the pivot point in the back of the wishbone exactly the same plane as the pivot point in the front. So that was just one of the lessons I learned.
So, Mr. Wilson, what you described to me before is what you call the Ackerman steering principle. Can you explain it a little further?
Yeah. Well, the name Ackerman comes clear back like 1817 or 1820 or whatever.
Oh.
A physicist came up with the principle. Back in the carriages, that they had back in the 1800s, buggies or whatever.
Because they had a pivot steering in the front.
Right. And they would, the outside wheel would chatter because the inside radius going around the curve was different than the outside radius.
Oh, okay.
So there had to be something to compensate for that. And so the way they do it on a more modern tractor, whether it's a wide front end normal farm tractor or a wagon, even your kids' pull around wagon would have that already built into them.
Okay.
And let's say here is the tire, the steering arm where it pivots up here is at a slight angle. And if you follow that back, it's easier to see on the tractor than describe it. But if you follow that line back to the center of the rear axle, then that will compensate for this different radius. It doesn't look like it would do that, but it does. It makes a big difference. And so when I put it together, I had the steering arm parallel with the tire.
Okay.
Not a good idea.
So it made that outside wheel kind of fall along, huh?
And it would just it turned too close. It was trying to follow the radius
of the
inside tire. Well, when you got halfway around the curve, the outside tire was pushing like this. It's like, this is nuts.
Yeah, there's no holding on to that one.
No, I said this is crazy. So anyway, I just kind of stumbled onto it, and that's how I learned a little bit about the Ackerman principle. I'm not an engineer. I'm just a farmer that likes to build crazy stuff. But
I would agree that you do like to build some crazy stuff.
But anyway, that was just one of the lessons I learned. Plus the pivot points. And so if anybody's building a lowrider, if you start out with knowing a little bit about those two principles, it'll go a long ways to make it drive.
Okay.
Good.
Make it steer a little better, make it a little more comfortable, hang on to and drive.
Absolutely.
Well, you did what a lot of people do. The B is a symmetrical piece of equipment, meaning this side is set up exactly like this side. So the great thing about that is a lot of guys who own a B will add another platform to the left-hand side, install the seat brackets and a seat so that they can carry a passenger.
Right.
And you went a little bit further and you added something that you had, you were trying to get us to guess what it came off of.
Well, the chrome thing that you see in the background there, that was basically the side off of a hospital bed.
Like the rail that keeps you
from falling out of
a hospital bed.
So, I mean, I had it laying around, and it was chrome, and it was pretty, and so it makes a good footrest.
Yeah, I saw you sat down and
it gives the passenger a little security, because otherwise you're like, okay, I got nothing to hang on to here.
There's no arms and no seatbelt.
But another thing that you have to do if you lower a tractor, well then the tire's up here, and well there's your arm or your shoulder.
Right next to the tire.
And the fender's down here. So now that's not going to work.
No, that's a little scary and a little unsafe.
You have to raise the fender so it protects you from the tire. Well, you have to fill that in with something.
Right.
So I made a little transition thing to fill in, so you could, and it looks better when you raise the fenders up.
It gives you more of a nice curve and
the same radius as the tire. And if you don't do that, well then it's too dangerous.
Now the high speed, top end speed on a B is about 7 or 8 miles an hour, but this one will do 13.
Yeah, about 13.
And so how did you accomplish that?
Well, the bigger tires and wheels.
The tires are ginormous on this thing.
I forget what the tires are off of. Maybe I don't know.
The reason we have the tire off of this one on this side is so that we could see the final drive and how it was turned up.
Right.
So anything else? But it's a beautiful machine. Did a great job on it. Beautiful machines.
Not bad. It's a cute little tractor, and they're easy to haul, and so
I bet it turns some heads.
It does.
Got roll bar on the back.
Yeah. But that we drive it in parades, and I have driven it on tractor drives and this type of thing. Drives good, and that's when you start messing around with factory things, start changing it. Well, then you have to compensate.
Okay.
And so that's basically what we did. We just worked until we got some of these problems worked out.
Okay.
And then it worked out.
So when you go to, how does an idea like lowering a beak pop into your head? You've also got a rat rod over here. What year is that Chevy truck? Did you start with a Chevy truck?
Yeah, it's a 97 S10.
97 S10.
So I moved the cab back 14 inches.
Okay.
It's got an old 327 and a 4-speed out of an old grain truck. And the front end of the rat rod is an M.
Hood and grill.
Out of a 51M maybe.
Okay.
And then the tailgate, I had my buddy stamp in Farmall.
This is Farmall on it.
In the tailgate.
And it has duals on the back.
Well, yeah, the rear end's out of 97 Dodge maybe, one ton Dodge. So
we got dualies on an S10 with an M hood and grill.
It's half
and
tractor.
A beautiful Farmall tailgate on the back. Just
so
beautiful.
It's still a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
And we're not going to brag on it until we actually drive it down the road.
You're not going to let us take pictures of it?
Well, you can if you want, but it's not going to be much.
So growing up, what kind of tractors did y'all farm with?
Mostly red. My dad way back had an F20 and H's, and the one I remember most, he bought brand new, was a 1954 Super MTA.
Wow.
That's one of the few tractors he bought new. And 1954 was a total burnout, total drought.
A drought.
A drought. I mean, we put up a temporary silo and cut silage just to have something for the old cows to eat on the wintertime, because there was no ear on the corn.
Wow.
And it was just an ugly time. And I was just a little bit kid, but it was an ugly time. I remember it well. And it was a year that was just hot. I mean, just burning hot. In 1936, 1954, and 2012.
Yes.
Now remember 2012 very well. You know, our corn we cut it down with a bush hog.
Wow.
So I mean, it was that bad. So anyway, but my dad had that spring. The ground worked beautifully, and he bought a brand new 1954 Super MTA.
So you got a brand new Super MTA 1954, first year they came out. And
Right.
Is the only year they had them?
Only a year.
The only year that is Super MTA 1954. So you go out, you got a beautiful spring, the ground's doing great, you're able to get everything in, and then along comes just this heat wave.
Went downhill from there.
Down. So what did he do? How'd y'all make it?
Well, barely.
Barely.
As I remember, you know, we did anything we could. Cut hay, had the neighbors had a silage chopper.
Okay.
We cut the corn, put it in a silo.
Because it wouldn't go to ear.
No. And we had picket fence with the old silo paper inside the picket fence.
Okay.
And we had to have something to feed the old cows.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hey, they made it. You know, my parents were very resilient, and so they made it work.
Well, how do you pay for a new tractor? How do you pay for a new tractor?
New
Did you buy it cash?
No.
No cash money you bought?
He had gone to the bank that spring to buy the tractor.
Okay.
Well, that fall, he says, what am I going to do? I can't make that tractor payment.
Wow.
And the banker said, don't worry about it, Frosty. He said, pay me next year. And my dad's name was Forrest.
Oh, Forrest.
A lot of people called him Frosty.
Oh.
So anyway.
I was going to ask you, how do you get named Frosty? That sounds like you wouldn't be a very nice guy. If it's Forrest, yeah, it makes sense.
He's a great guy. Anyway, we survived that year, and then, you know, it leveled out.
So you got a banker that's willing to let you go, because he really has. He's got no use for a whole parking lot full of tractors, does he?
There would have been a lot of them if he'd have demanded payment that year. Well, he'd had a whole lot full of tractors. He didn't want that,
and nobody really wanting one. So
right.
So how'd the next year work out? How'd 56 go for you?
55 and 6, they started getting back on their feet, and so, you know, it worked out. I wish I could buy land now for what they bought land back then. You know, like $100 an acre, $200 an acre. You know. And
Mr. Wilson, if we all know then what we know now, I'd still have a lot of stuff I'd held on to, and really appreciated it more than I do.
20/20 hindsight.
Absolutely. So you've shown me some of your other tractors here. How many tractors you got in all?
Well, the old saying goes, if you know how many tractors you have, you don't have enough.
You don't have enough.
I don't know.
20,
20, I don't know.
They scattered all over the property.
Well, yeah, here and there.
You got them scattered everywhere. Is that on purpose so that somebody don't find out how many you got?
My wife, sometimes she finds out a couple months after I bought. Oh, I've had that for a couple months.
Oh.
And so, you know.
Is that kind of like the dents in my truck where I go, who put the dent in my truck? Oh, that happened a long time ago. Yeah. It's one of the daughters did it a long time ago. So, Mr. Wilson, you have an H and an M and an F20?
No. I've got a bunch of 15.
Oh, I misspoke.
1530 McCormick
1530, okay.
They were the forerunner of the Farmall whole series, but way back when, back in the 20s.
And Didn't they, International sold under two dealerships. They sold under McCormick Deering and they sold under Farmall, right?
Right.
So one of them sold the Mogul and one of them sold the Titan, and they're basically the same thing, right?
Now I'm not tuned into all the history because back then it's still going on. Companies were buying each other.
Okay.
You know, if you follow the tractors, well, follow the car dealerships. There were like what, 3,000 different car dealerships.
Okay.
Car
manufacturers.
And now we've got what, 2, 3, whatever, you know. But and tractors are the same way.
Yep.
So there's some that only last a year or two, and then others they bought and sold each other and consolidated and
Right.
and moved on up the road. But some of the big ones had their roots back then. Well, the ones that I like are the Farmalls back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, along through there, just because that's kind of what I grew up with.
Okay. So you said your grandfather had an M?
No, just my dad.
Oh, your dad had the M.
My dad had my grandfather and my dad, when they first started farming, they had a Fordson, which was a disaster. But
yeah, that was kind of.
didn't have any brakes.
No.
Didn't come with brakes. Why would you need brakes? You're only going 2 miles an hour.
Exactly. What could you possibly run into? Let me tell you, I know you could run into something.
But
you can ask my youngest daughter about running through the neighbor's fence with a tractor.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, first time I ever let her drive one, she ended up in the neighbor's yard.
But like the old McCormick Deerings that we looked at back here, the old 1530s, they were great tractors to run the belt pulleys.
Oh yeah, the power, like the power takeoff with the belt.
Machines and the different sawmills and stuff that they use, they were wonderful tractors for that.
They just sit and run steady all day long.
Right,
Huh?
but going out in the field like we use tractors nowadays, they didn't want to turn. They didn't have individual foot brakes.
Ah.
So you come to the end of the field, you better have a plan because they wanted to keep going straight.
Huh.
And so now you just hit an individual brake.
Yeah, and you can spin a tire.
Spin it right around.
Right.
Well, they didn't have that. And so they weren't very good as far as a row crop tractor. So, I mean, they had their benefits, but they also had some...
And they had a wide front.
Right, shortcomings as well.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that was kind of interesting development back in the 20s, you know.
And the one has the vented sides, which I think are so cool. The louvered door on the side, and it was kind of floppy, so you had to make a little bit of a change to that.
I didn't want to. I wanted to keep the look of the original louvers and all that, and I wanted the patina of the old rusty tractor. And I'm not going to ever paint it. I'm just not going to do that. When I get it where I want it, I'm going to, my friend runs a body shop, and he got me some clear that is dull. I mean,
matte finish clear coat.
Yes, it's not glossy like your modern day cars, but it's just flat.
So it'll preserve that
Right.
nice patina.
I want that rusty patina. Well, anyway, they sold the louvers on this old tractor. They were just floppy like a rag. And so I laid some steel in the back and riveted them
along the top and the bottom of that door,
and it stiffened them right up.
Okay.
And I thought, well, what am I going to use for a rivet? I said, well, you know, 12 penny nail is about the right size. Drill a little hole, cut the nail off, and peened it down. Hey,
yeah, you
rivet.
made a rivet the real way, not the pop rivets that we use nowadays.
Right.
So you actually peened it down and made it into a rivet.
I didn't want to pop rivet on it.
Amazing. And you know what? If I were just standing there looking at it, I would not think that it was new at all.
It was a repair like an old-time blacksmith would have done.
Exactly what they would have done.
Right.
Yeah, when we look at these tractors, you know what? No tractor is going to survive 60, 70, 80 years without somebody having to fix something on it.
Absolutely.
There's going to be a weld on it. There's going to be a patch of metal on it somewhere. There's going to be a dent and a ding because the tractor has lived through a lot of life.
Right.
And they're going to show their age, but they're also going to show what they've been through, just like a person with a scar here and a scar there.
War
they're
injuries.
They're going to have tree fell on it or whatever.
Yeah.
So tell us about, you were showing me a 39H, correct? And you were showing me how to identify just a 39H. And how do you identify that?
Well, if you walk up to the tractor from the back, the floor pan where the seat bolts to the floor pan,
Okay.
the 39 will have a notch down like so.
Okay.
And the
Directly under the seat.
directly under the seat bracket. And so that lets the seat pivot down.
Because the seat comes back like this.
Right.
And then there's a big spring here
Right.
that makes the seat kind of absorb the shock. And it had to have somewhere to clear.
Right. Now, I don't know whether that's why they built it or whether, they changed it later and they said,
Afterthought.
we might as well make this straight,
Oh.
But anyway, 39 only had that dip down in the floor pan. And then from 40 on up,
It's just flat.
it's just a flat
Okay.
platform there. So that's just one of the differences.
Now you bought the M and the H to have from one family, and you bought the M rather specifically because that's a tractor you had grown up with.
Yeah, I've always liked the M's, and so I use it as a tractor drive tractor, and I've got new tires on it and whatever, so it drives down the road real well, and we have a lot of fun. Our club has at least one tractor drive per year.
Okay.
And one of my things on my bucket list is to drive it across the Mackinac Bridge up in Michigan. Now that I don't know whether
That would be
I'll
fun.
ever accomplish that or not, but our little local drives, we just pick out a point, drive maybe 15 miles to a restaurant, have lunch, and then drive back home.
Okay.
So that's our tractor drives aren't terribly exciting, but hey, we have fun.
It's always fun to get
Yeah.
get a gang of tractors out and run them down the road.
Over here in Indiana, they have the covered bridge drive.
Right.
Now, I'd like to go on that. There's a route that they take
I've done it in a car.
and go through some of the covered bridges
Yeah.
and whatever.
I've actually done it in a truck that was too heavy to drive across a couple of them.
Yeah.
And I stopped because I'm a good law-abiding citizen. And I would have been highly embarrassed if I'd have dropped a 3/4 ton Ford truck through their fancy old bridge.
Not a good idea.
No, so I was very respectful of that. But that would be fantastic to do the covered bridge trail in Indiana on a tractor. That would be a lot of fun. You can invite me to. I'd go down
there
there.
you
with
go.
I'd come
we
down
got
and
plenty
go
of
here.
tractors.
I wouldn't just drive down here and just borrow one for the day. Couldn't I? I wouldn't have to trailer one down here.
That's an idea.
Well, going forward, tell me about the club that you're president of. Tell me about that.
Well, basically, it's Jasper County, but we're open to anybody, and our membership is very expensive, like
How much are you going to gig me for a membership?
$10 a year.
Whew, I don't know if I can get that up.
We actually doubled it last year. It was $5.
Oh, I bet there was an uproar.
Oh, it was terrible. So now it's $10 a year.
Wow.
Nice little club. We used to go different shops around, different places. And then the Chamber of Commerce there in Newton has a building that's heated and air. And so we have our meetings there now. And it's right on the square. And it makes a nice centrally located place.
For all you members to come to.
Yeah, we have guys from Oblong and Diedrich and all over.
Because Jasper County is a pretty good sized
Oh
county.
yes, one of the biggest counties in Illinois geographically,
Okay.
but people-wise, no,
Not very crowded, is it?
not very crowded.
We, my wife and I were discussing before we came down here. We live in northern Lake County, as far north as you can get and not fall over in the morning and end up in Wisconsin. And we had to go over into McHenry and Will County, and people who don't live in Illinois or not familiar with this area don't realize how much farmland we actually have. Once you get out of the big city areas, like up around Lake Michigan, around that area, and you get down here, or you get even just west of us, we're maybe 15, 20 miles from Lake Michigan west of there, and we've got farms right out the back door. People just don't understand how much food this state produces. Corn, soybeans, and we're the largest producer of all weird things, pumpkins. amazing. Most of them go to pie pumpkins. But yeah, people need to really appreciate the fact that, man, Illinois feeds a lot of people. And I don't know if you've ever thought about how a tractor, one of these old H's or one of these old M's, and how many people that tractor has fed, either through livestock or just vegetable crops, things like that somebody should be able to figure out sometime how much and how many crops that one tractor actually produces on a farm, especially the big 1,000, 2,000 acre farms that we got running now down here.
I was telling you about the Super MTA that I've got over in another building. That tractor, well, I bought it over here by Nokomis, Illinois, but it originally spent most of its life on a tomato farm in Ohio.
Oh.
Now, how it got back to Nokomis, that's a long story. Then I don't.
And don't you wish you knew that story?
Yeah. I've got a picture of the old guy that bought it new.
Wow.
I don't know how I ended up with it. Somehow in the tractor trade, why I ended up with it. But
with the paperwork, maybe?
But I don't have the bill of sale or any of that. But it spent most of its life on a tomato farm.
Okay.
Well, we don't have tomato farms around here, obviously.
Not that I know of.
But that's just some of the interesting history of these tractors. But yeah, I never had really thought about how many people they actually fed. And a lot of the tractors, if it's a tractor with a loader on it that's been used in a livestock operation, they're used every day.
Cleaning out a dairy barn or cleaning out.
They haul hay.
Everything.
Manure. They use them every day. Now, a little row crop tractor, we use them in the spring and we use them in the fall.
Right.
But they don't work on like a loader tractor.
Right.
I mean, you buy a loader tractor that's been around, it's been used up. Out.
Yes. All right. So tip to someone who wants to get into tractor collecting: if you're buying a loader tractor, you might want to go toward a row crop, maybe.
Right.
Because it's going to give you a better deal. So if someone wants to get into someone's sitting around there like, I've never owned a tractor. I'd really like to have a tractor. Looks like a lot of fun to tinker with. They're very simple. When you actually get to looking at it, it's very simple. You can work on them yourself. The older ones, like you and I have, those are all just regular ignition. Nothing fancy, no electronics.
No computers.
No computer to deal with.
Right.
So what would you suggest as far as starting out?
Well, some people, depends on what you want to do. Some people start out with a barn find. They find an old rusty tractor. Oh my, I want to bring that back. Well, if you do it that way, that's fine. That's great. But you will spend way more on that tractor getting it back up to speed than if you buy it from somebody that has they've had the tractor and they fixed it all up and now they want to move on to something else. They want to buy a boat or they want to trade houses or they want to buy a new car or whatever they want to do. You can buy a restored tractor cheaper than you can restore
than you'll ever be.
Absolutely.
So if someone goes into the notion that they're going to buy a tractor and restore it, then you might as well from day one figure out that you're going to spend more money than that tractor's ever going to be worth. So this is not a money making proposition.
No.
The guys making the money are selling us parts and painting them for us, right?
And Steiner well knows that.
Yes, they know how to make the money. And the guy who sells me them tractor tires all the time.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That guy's making the bucks.
A lot of these old tractors that you buy, I was at a sale one time, and this tractor, it was an old John Deere or whatever, and I said, boy, that's going pretty cheap. The old boy standing next to me, he said, yep, buying them is about the cheapest part of it. So once you get it home, now that's when it costs you. Buying them is about the cheapest part. But anyway, you start buying tires. that doubles the price of probably what you paid for the tractor.
Yes, it does.
So,
but you know what? It's the best part of it. It's the fun part.
Yeah,
You gotta have you gotta be knee deep in rubber, as we say.
that's true. But it's if you like to work on them. We spend money on our hobbies. We spend money on whatever we want to spend our money on.
What we place a priority on.
Right. And if your hobby is fixing, great. That makes a great hobby. That's why you see so many retired farmers playing with old tractors. It's just an absolute great hobby, and the people you meet along the way, that's you can't replace that.
Yeah, I've found that Farmall folks are the best folks to be around.
Yeah.
We've had a great time during this last summer visiting with people and talking to them about their tractors, and I've had nothing but a great time. Everybody's is always really happy, but because they're doing something they like.
Right. And the other thing, when I buy a tractor, I'm buying the story of the tractor.
Okay.
Now, a lot of the ones that I have at the moment, they don't have a particular story. Like it wasn't my grandfather's tractor or anything like that. Now, a lot of the guys in the club, they have tractors that have their own story, and the story they're bringing that story to the next generation. Some of mine are, but most of mine are just I've traded for them or I bought them or whatever at a sale or whatever. And I get in trouble when I thumb through Craigslist. That's my, I need a 12-step program to get off of that. But so far that hasn't happened.
Is that your guilty pleasure?
I guess so. But my wife can attest to that. She's actually a very patient person. She indulges my habits.
So you have a nickname that you heard for H's and M's. And the reason that I say that an H, which is the smaller tractor, or an M is a great starter tractor, is because you can find them very easily. You can always find parts for them because there are so many of them made that you got just tons of parts available, new and used and remanufactured parts, and very simple to work on, very, very inexpensive. Like you say, the day you bought it's the least amount of money you'll ever spend on it probably. But a very good tractor if you really want to get into tractors. Go with an H or an M, or if you don't have the room for a larger tractor, even A's, B's, or even the Cubs. There are lots of Cubs available, very inexpensive. You can buy a very good shaped Cub for probably $1,500 to $2,000, and you're in the tractor owner club. All of a sudden, you're part of Red Tractor Nation. As soon as you drop $2,000 on a Cub, you're a part of our people at that point.
That's for sure.
And it's just all downhill from there. It's the next one, the next one, the next one, right?
Yeah.
So, well, I've had a great time today talking to you, Mr. Wilson.
Hey, it's good to have you down.
I enjoyed sitting here listening to you reminisce, and you're right. The best part about tractors is the story behind them, and that's what we're all about here at Red Tractor Nation. So if you enjoyed the story that you heard today and our little interview here with Mr. Wilson, then be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time on Red Tractor Nation.